For as long as I can remember, wild animals have been an essential element in my life. My moments of greatest joy and satisfaction have come from being around them. And I've developed a special interest in those that make their home where I do, here in America. Like most people, I'm fascinated by any creature that lives in total independence from humans. I've always wanted to get closer, to understand what makes them truly wild. Join me as we travel through the years to explore Marty's world. That's what the kids called our house when they came over to play on the little car I built for them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. When I was a kid, growing up in Fort Smith, Arkansas, the woods were right out our back door. My brothers, Mark and Marshall, and I, and our sister Mary, would spend endless hours playing and filming each other. We also filmed our pets, an orphaned wildlife that called our house home, like Foxy, the fox kit. Here's my earliest attempt at capturing an exciting predator-prey sequence on film. As with most boys raised in the country, guns and hunting were a part of growing up. I'm convinced that my hunting skills and my home movie experiences were what led me into hunting with a camera.
I'm absolutely certain that wildlife photography is a total substitute for hunting, that it's the same thing. You plan it, you go to the area, you get your preparation, you've got your equipment, and you're ready to do it, and you go out there, and you stalk up, and then, you literally squeeze a trigger, literally capture the animal. I believe people hunt so they can get closer to the animals.
That was certainly the case with me. Even retrieving a dead duck in freezing water was a way to relate to the animals in the most primal way possible.
One summer in between years in college, I went to Alaska with a couple of friends of mine, David Huey, who still lives here in Aspen and who works with me sometime. We grew up together in Arkansas, and Charlie Warner.
We packed our gear into a beat-up Chevy station wagon. Besides our supplies, we carried about 50 rolls of film and a Super 8mm movie camera that I'd bought at a Gibson's discount center. We fished for salmon along the Gulkana River in eastern Alaska. And we hiked around Mount Denali, the highest peak in North America. Here I saw for the first time herds of caribou, moose, and other large mammals that had always seemed so magnificent to me. On the high slopes, a band of pure white Dall sheep grazed as if we weren't even there. It was here that I saw a wild grizzly for the first time in my life, a huge Toklak grizzly. He rose up on his hind legs to watch us, and I thought that I'd never seen anything so amazing. I stood on the shoulder of that huge mountain, breathing in air so fresh it seemed never to have been breathed by another living thing. On the last day of June, David and Charlie left Alaska, but I stayed on. I had no idea that I would come close to never seeing my friends again. I traveled to Kodiak Island, where I met a halibut fisherman who agreed to take me to a place called Cape Chiniak. I'd heard about a colony of stellar sea lions, and I wanted to hunt and film them. Later I learned that Cape Chiniak is one of the most dangerous places in the world to be in a boat. I rowed a little dinghy to a low group of jagged rocks and tied up, but got so absorbed in filming that I forgot to pay attention to what was happening around me. When I looked up, I saw a fog bank rolling in, the fishing trawler leaving, and my dinghy floating away. A 13-foot high tide was due, and the rocks I was perched on would soon be under icy waters. I ended up being rescued by a Coast Guard helicopter just before my rocky perch disappeared under a wall of water. Later, I found out that the halibut fisherman had reported me for dead. Next, I left for the remote valleys of the Brooks Range, resolved to be more careful this time. I had been hired to do carpentry at a hunting camp. In my original letter to the hunting guide, I mentioned that back in the 6th grade, I'd taken a correspondence course in taxidermy. So I was promoted to assistant guide, in addition to framing and insulating the plywood shack by the lake. I soon learned that caribou are more interesting than carpentry. I took up my pack and headed out into the stern beauty of the Brooks Range whenever I could. Near the end of August, an early snowstorm moved in. I'd seen an old Dall sheep ram several times on the far slopes. I canoed across the lake and followed a faint trail that bordered a small creek. This great-grandfather of a ram I was stalking was old, long past breeding age. When I shot him, I examined his teeth and saw they were all worn down. I knew he would have starved in the approaching winter. The old ram proved to be my lifeline. Everyone had left the isolated camp for fear of being snowed in. Everyone but me, that is. The plane would return the next day to pick me up, I was told. But that's when the storm became a full-scale blizzard, and I was forced indoors for days. Even when the weather cleared, the scheduled plane did not arrive, and the temperatures fell well below freezing. By the 12th day, even the Dall sheep meat had given out. Then on the afternoon of the 14th day, the promised plane arrived. Again, I had dodged a bullet. At the beginning of September, I returned to Fort Smith with almost 100 rolls of Super 8 film, which I edited into Alaska. I stood up with a microphone and narrated to the picture. Each showing sold out completely, with about 1,800 people a showing. Tickets were $1 in advance and $1.50 at the door.
I mean, I was rich. I was a millionaire. You know, I mean, I had a couple of $1,000, which was what I bought my first 16mm camera with. And I said, no, wait a second. You can go to Alaska, have a terrific time, come home, make money. That's what I want to do.
So I persuaded a safari company to let me make a promotional film for them, this time in the professional 16mm format. The day after exams, without waiting for graduation, I flew to Botswana. What I saw on safari there changed my life forever. The Okavango River enters Botswana as a broad stretch of crystal clear water. But as it flows toward the Kalahari Desert, it spreads out like the fingers of an outstretched hand into a huge, lush delta, teeming with wildlife. I had arrived in the last great wilderness area left on the African continent. Almost every day, I immersed myself in the wildlife. I was fascinated by the hugeness of giraffes and elephants. It was a wonderful filming opportunity, but a horrible experience. The safari companies were bringing in great numbers of people for the primary purpose of hunting and killing as many animals as was legally permissible in as short a time as possible. While working on the film for the safari company, I saw more animals shot and killed than I could have seen in 20 lifetimes anywhere else. The reality of this slaughter was brought home to me during several encounters with some Bushmen in the Kalahari. These tribal people have an intimate knowledge of and respect for the land and its animals. They have evolved elaborate methods of hunting, and they hunt to live. Armed with only a lightweight bow, tiny poison-tipped arrows, and a spear or knife, the Bushmen travel on foot. For them, this is not sport, but an essential life and death contest for food, not ego gratification. For centuries, Africa was a continent teeming with life, but in our own time, it has teemed with death. The edited version of my film was a failure. Nobody in either my hometown of Fort Smith or in neighboring Oklahoma seemed interested in Africa. After the slaughter and bloodshed of Botswana, I decided to turn my camera toward doing something meaningful in my own country. In Africa, I had filmed death. I returned to America to film life.
I've always been interested in wildlife and in films. I guess I started out as a hobby more than anything, and it's progressed to where that's what I do now. And that's basically how we got involved in the film on bighorn sheep.
For almost as long as I can remember, the Rocky Mountain bighorn has been a kind of personal totem, the wild creature I thought I would be if I were ever reincarnated as an animal. I wanted to record them on film in order to help keep them from vanishing. Within 100 years of the white man's arrival in the Rockies, the estimated original population of more than 2.5 million bighorn had been decimated. The survivors were forced into the most inaccessible areas of the mountains, where no more than 25,000 bighorn, just 1%, remained. In many ways, bighorn was my first film, in that I planned it, cared about it, and really believed in it. I wanted to know all about their behavior and what motivated them. But most of all, I wanted to get to know them in a personal sense, because I believe every animal is an individual. The expenses of making bighorn were underwritten to a great extent by my generous and understanding parents. The awards that bighorn received encouraged me to turn my attention to another idea that came to me while filming the endangered desert bighorn.
Our current film that we're working on now, we've been involved in it for 15 months, and no telling how much longer we'll be involved in it, maybe another year or so, is on endangered species.
To promote public awareness of the new Endangered Species Act of 1973, I decided to document all the mammals and birds on the endangered species list. I set a course that took me all across America, beginning at the Aransas National Wildlife Refuge in Texas, a wintering ground for the whooping crane. In 1973, only 59 birds remained in the wild. These statuesque birds inspired the elaborate campaign which established federal protection for vanishing species. My childhood friend, Cece Lockwood, and I filmed a pair of rare red wolves and their litter of pups in Arkansas, and then we headed west. We spent 6 weeks near the Mexican border, searching for the only remaining herd of Sonoran pronghorn, an estimated 75 individuals scattered over thousands of square miles of the Cabeza Prieta National Game Range. I was convinced that rare animals would yield rare footage. I was wrong. Heat waves through my 1,000-millimeter lens distorted the images of a few pronghorn grazing, poor quality footage, and undramatic behavior. But our hard work was not a total loss, because I filmed thousands of feet of other desert wildlife. My practice of being an opportunistic shooter would prove invaluable to me in just a few short years. After spending 3 years filming endangered wildlife with the help of friends and my brother Mark, none of the television networks were interested. They were unwilling to touch such controversial subject matter. But word was spreading about our work to save wildlife. Mark and I were invited to appear in an NBC special hosted by Academy Award-winning actors Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward.
Many animals require wilderness or remoteness to exist. And when civilization presses too close, many animals simply cannot survive.
For over 3 years, Marty and Mark Stouffer have sought out and filmed North America's declining animal and bird species. Using special camera backpacks and delicate telephoto equipment, they've been able to blend quietly into the habitat of these species. The results are some intimate footage of rarely observed wildlife.
100 years ago, this area of Colorado was teeming with wildlife. Grizzly bears, wolves, moose, even buffalo. But today it's a different story. Today in Colorado, the wolf is gone, the grizzly's gone, the moose is almost gone, and the symbol of the state, the bighorn sheep, is declining.
Because of the Wild Places program, a small portion of our endangered species film finally made it to television. At nearly the same time, Cece Lockwood and I shot a film in the swamps of Louisiana amidst the nutrient-rich waters of the Atchafalaya Basin. It depicted the importance and fragility of this unique ecosystem and was seen by many people, from school children to politicians. As a result of public opinion, plans were canceled which would have drained the entire river basin for development. If the power of film could help to preserve this damp, brooding swamp, I reasoned it could surely help protect the most endangered, magnificent, and controversial creatures of the wild, the predators.
To some people, these animals are the embodiment of cruel death. To others, they are the finest example of nature's respect for life. Whatever the point of view, there is no question that they are predators.
The Predators premiered on NBC to a huge audience, with Robert Redford narrating. Redford, a champion for wildlife, helped launch my television career and never even cashed his check for narrating the film.
The film you are about to see is, I think, an extraordinary portrait of North America's natural predators. Those animals which, in the business of living, must kill to eat. It is not a sentimental film, but neither is it a cruel one. It explores the relationship between predator and prey with understanding.
To me, that moment when predator and prey come together epitomizes the essence of existence. The moment of predation is like the Olympics of the animal kingdom, and each of the contenders is like an athlete who trains for years for the big game. If the competitor trips and falls, it's all over. Of course, animals don't win any gold medals. What they win is far more important: the right to live. The predators took 7 years of traveling around the North American continent. Sequences never filmed before highlighted the show, and The Predators was the first wildlife film to make extensive use of slow-motion photography. Here, a bobcat chases a snowshoe hare at 200 frames per second, rather than the normal 24. Predators miss at least 9 out of 10 chances to bring down a meal. That was the case here.
There is only one animal in the world which can hope to survive a fight with a grizzly bear. Another grizzly.
Of all the predators I filmed, grizzlies totally captured my imagination. Ever since I saw my first one in Alaska, I was hooked. They are the symbol of untamable wilderness. This was not a life and death struggle, but a fight over breeding rights. Who will father the next generation? In the back of my mind, I hoped there might be a grizzly or two remaining in the deep forests and shadowy canyons of the Colorado Rockies where I live. I set up a foundation with the sole objective of reintroducing a female and her cub, and raised $10,000, which I offered to the Colorado Division of Wildlife. They declined the offer. I'm sure that delighted the livestock ranchers who lease our public lands at rock-bottom prices. I figured that if the Division of Wildlife wouldn't introduce grizzlies, then I would.
Hello there, baby.
So I planned to raise and release a cub in a remote and undisclosed corner of the Colorado Rockies.
Marty, welcome.
Thank you.
And taking a look at your resume, I see you have been producing, making films on wildlife now for the past 10 years.
Yes, that's right.
How old are you?
Well, I'm 31 now.
You started professionally when you were 21.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
This is a true life story of
Yes.
you and a bear
That's right.
and your life together in Colorado.
That's right.
Can I ask where you were in Colorado?
Central Colorado, yeah, in different areas.
Okay, and you and the bear sort of lived together in this cabin.
That's right.
Let's take a look at the film.
Marty knew he had a lot to learn. How could he, a human being, presume to teach the ways of the wild to a young grizzly? Could he teach it where to hunt and fish?
My plan was simple enough, or so I thought. I wanted to restore grizzly bears to the Colorado wilderness, just the way they restock streams with trout and forests with deer. Only my idea was not for people to hunt and kill them, but to let them alone. To me, a wilderness isn't natural without big predators like grizzlies. It's hollow, like a ghost town.
During my 2 years with Grizz, I tried to teach her how to survive and be independent. She taught me that animals are just as capable of a wide range of moods and emotional responses as people. Fear, anxiety, loyalty, and happiness. Misunderstanding has been a big reason for the continuing gap in communication between humans and wild animals like the grizzly. I hope we bridge the gap in The Man Who Loved Bears.
The motive behind all of the films, I mean, no one pays me to do them or hires me or anything. It's just a deep personal interest that I have, and mainly because I think that the animals need someone to speak for them, someone to tell their side of the story.
My adventures with Grizz were filmed with me primarily in front of the camera and my brother Mark behind it. Thankfully, ABC agreed to pay to air it, and the show was also distributed as a feature film to theaters around the country. Many tell me that The Man Who Loved Bears is their favorite of all my films. While my next film would focus on wild babies, the babies would be learning survival skills, not from me, but from their natural parents in the wild. By 1979, I'd shot enough footage on wild babies to edit a 1-hour special, but the networks had lost interest in broadcasting wildlife programs. Syndication and public television were the only alternatives. While filming wild babies, I shot a great deal of footage on 2 animals in particular, white-tailed deer and timber wolves. I edited the footage into a half hour, the wolf and the whitetail. And I re-edited wild babies into a half hour as well. Both were destined for educational distribution. But in the long run, schools and libraries would prove to be a very small part of my eventual audience.
Those amazing animals.
Appearances on network series helped keep my work before the public.
One of America's most talented wildlife photographers is Marty Stouffer, who makes his headquarters among the beautiful scenic regions of Aspen, Colorado.
Marty, I'm sure everybody wants to know how you began your career as a wildlife filmmaker.
My parents were very understanding, so we had an opportunity to be around animals. My mom kept them alive, and my dad built cages for them. And the filming part came later. But I think if I weren't filming animals, I would paint them or write about them or do something to get close to them. Well, here's a backpack that I designed, and I used to carry it all. This is a backpack here. The camera mounts on top, and it clicks off so that you can put it on a tripod real quickly. And then these are lenses in here. This is a battery, and in here is film and light meter and stuff. Now, this weighs about 50 pounds, and I haven't packed a lunch or camping gear or recording equipment. So, there's a lot to carry, and it gets heavy.
Then, in 1981, I got a huge break. A half-hour series proposal I presented to PBS was accepted. Wild America, the first television series ever to focus exclusively on American wildlife, was born. I offered the series of 10 half-hour shows at a rock-bottom price. Gone were any illusions of Leslie Nielsen narrating.
Welcome to the American wilderness. In these untamed lands, life is an endless adventure for the children of the wild.
TV Guide described Wild America as homegrown television, which I found flattering, whether or not it was meant that way. Just a few months before the birth of Wild America, my wife Diane and I had our first child, a daughter we named Hannah. I like to believe that our newborn daughter was the lucky charm that helped to clinch the deal.
What goes on behind the scenes of TV's wildest shows?
Entertainment Tonight pulls a few strings for Monday, October 22nd, 1984.
To me, it's pure entertainment.
Wildlife photographer Marty Stouffer began traipsing around after animals as a child in Arkansas, and he's still following them, camera in hand, as producer of one of the most popular regularly scheduled series on PBS, Wild America.
Since I love animals and they fascinate me so much, to me it's pure entertainment. I'm serious about it, but in a very energetic, fun-loving way. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? This is nothing but a thinly veiled vacation.
I was the common thread woven throughout the programs, and in retrospect, I believe it was one secret to the success of the series. But despite the many times I appeared as host and wilderness guide, I still thought of myself first and foremost as a cinematographer. Other secrets to success were the chances we took. We did not censor out the main events of an animal's life: birth, mating, predation, and death. Like this juvenile lynx, or this aborted pronghorn fetus. The entire cycle of life was included. We exposed a wide audience, not only to the most elegant of American animals, but to the most unlikely of stars as well, like the diamondback rattlesnake. And in our southern swamps, the enormous alligator snapping turtle. My favorite all-time ugly stars were featured in year 2 of the series. When Hog Wild aired, people across the country were amazed by an animal that might be smarter than the family dog and as ferocious as an angry lion. Clearly, some of the most charming moments of Wild America included my family.
Feel this one, yeah.
You know what? We get to keep them.
Oh, yeah?
You have to put it in his mouth, because he can't hold it too good.
Who's getting hungry?
From the time Hannah was old enough to walk, she was a part of the series.
Come on out, you guys. Goodbye.
She was 3 years old when I brought home a pair of orphaned fishers, the most arboreal of all weasels. Fishers not only climb trees, they climb anything.
Downstairs and back in their cage. That's it.
Come here, look over here.
Footprints.
You're right. What are these little ones right here that look like this?
Bird.
That's a bird, because they've got 3 little toes, and here's a bigger bird over here.
Duck.
Yeah, it does look like a duck.
Look at these. Now, these look like a little puppy dog. You see its little feet?
Yeah.
but they're not. They're fox tracks. And you see how this dirt is this mud is kind of wrinkled up here?
Yeah.
But this is shiny?
Yeah.
That means they're fresh. Let's go see if we can find that fox over here by the river.
Daddy?
Yeah?
I'll show you another part.
What? What do you want to show me?
Needle.
You do?
Worm.
Hannah proved to be a natural actress and loved to be on camera, even though she was smart enough to pay no attention to the camera itself.
Dad, have you ever had a bubble bath and you put a beard on you?
I don't need to. I've already got a beard.
He's silly.
When you were a kid, did you?
Oh, sure.
He had a beard when he was a kid.
Did not.
I've always, didn't you know I've always had a beard? I was born with a beard.
No, you weren't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Did you ever see a picture of Daddy with no beard?
Yes.
No.
When?
She beautifully illustrated how fascinating the wonders of wildlife are for children of all ages.
Yeah, do you see the tree? You see what's under it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Tigers.
No, not tigers. Cougars.
Hmm.
Cougars. Look, it's a mom and her 3 babies. They're really cute, too.
In growing up wild, she ran away with the show. In a way, this is a program made in her honor. It was about baby animals growing up, but its main theme was how rewarding it is for baby humans to grow up with wild animals in their lives.
Was there?
No.
There's no TVs when you're camping. So it's time to go to bed. I'll see you in the morning, okay? Night, Mom.
Night. Night, honey.
Yeah, well.
See you in the
Morning.
Hannah's baby brother, Luke, was featured even before he decided to bless our world with his presence.
Hey, Dad, look at the baby bunny.
Be careful you don't scare it. Careful, be very careful with it. Let's see, show it to Luke.
Look at the bunny.
Baby, that's just a little baby.
Apple. Hi.
In Kids and Critters, Luke and Hannah raised 2 baby falcons. Teaching them to hunt brought home the reality of the predator and prey relationship to Luke when he was only 4. Eventually, the kids could fly the young kestrels without their jesses.
Great.
Look, he wants to say goodbye to you, Luke, your friend. He's really become a friend of yours, hasn't he? But he'll make other friends, don't you think? And they'll have fun catching butterflies and mice.
And finally, they gave them their freedom.
Bye. There she goes, Hannah. There she goes. See her?
That's the girl.
Yep.
July 1996, Luke and I are going to Yellowstone National Park.
Take care of your dad. Make sure he changes his underwear. Make sure he behaves himself and no foul language.
Good work, honey. You're getting into the role. Let's go, Luke.
Aren't we gonna miss him, Hannah? Yeah.
Next stop, Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Passing on the tradition of visiting Yellowstone to Luke and filming our adventure reminded me of my own boyhood. Still hamming it up for the camera and loving it.
Are you filming?
Yeah, we're rolling.
All right, boy, let's see if we can get it in there.
Me, you got one?
Well, we have to measure it. It's looking pretty good.
That there's a good one.
Who knows if Luke will take up the camera professionally?
What?
Are you filming?
Yeah, what, you want it to?
Yeah.
For now, it's just pure fun.
Grizzly bears!
These silly Stouffer home videos sometimes inspired equally silly Wild America segments, like this one from Those Smelly Skunks.
Oh no, this thing leaks.
On a more serious note, I continued to promote wildlife and habitat preservation.
Hi, I'm Marty Stouffer, host of Wild America. You know, when I first began, it was never my intention to be any sort of a spokesman for wildlife. I think I just wanted to get out and film them for my own satisfaction and my own enjoyment. I just began because I love wild animals. I don't try to do negative films. I don't want to show people everything that's wrong or bad or sad or gloomy in the world. What I want to do is show them the beauty, the wonder, the joy of wildlife, and then maybe put a little message on the end that we should do something to save these animals because they are so enjoyable for us to look at and to be fascinated by.
Hi, I'm Marty Stouffer, host of Wild America. For years, public TV has led the way in presenting environmental issues. And this year, Operation Earth on PBS celebrates the planet we call home. Find out how you can make it a better place for all of us. Join us for Operation Earth.
Public television continues to do what it's always done best with Operation Earth.
Wild America gave me the opportunity not only to promote conservation, but to experiment with new ways to present our natural world visually.
For wildlife photography, the picture is everything. It's not radio, it's visual. It's very visual. And I try to tell a story that you could understand if you turned the sound off. Once the picture is good, then you try to add narration to it, to enhance it, to explain what's going on.
Depicting animal behavior on film is only one part of Marty's work. Beautiful scenics for time-lapse sequences are an integral component in his storytelling. One of his favorite photographic haunts is near his Aspen home, the Maroon Bells. Marty uses a calculator timing device to drive his 16mm camera.
2 hours will be about 10-second screen time.
To do this, Marty will shoot one frame of film every 5 seconds.
So it'll go click, 4, 3, 2, 1, click.
Even as a child, filmmaking was magical to me. With Wild America, I was able to reveal more to an audience than they could ever see on their own. Through the use of time-lapse photography, hours were condensed into a few stunning seconds. Eventually, we were able to combine a moving camera with the condensed action of time-lapse. Time-lapse plates fixed in the ground allowed for transitions through the seasons or over the course of a few months. Some programs required underwater photography. The tight-collared dry suit gave me claustrophobia, and the underwater housing was heavy. But the point-of-view shots were essential to the story of Yellowstone's cutthroat trout. In their shallow spawning streams, I donned a camouflage net to film their ancient mating ritual. Digging a grave-sized pit into the back of a riverbank allowed me to film young kingfishers inside their nest burrow. Once the 4 babies and their parents were accustomed to me, I got this rare look at a parent feeding its offspring. I love giving the audience another point of view, like this Steadicam shot tracking an armadillo to its nest. Or aerial views to establish location. Here, we mounted a camera on the wing of a small plane. Wild America was one of the first nature series to make extensive use of slow-motion photography. With a 300mm lens and at 8 times normal speed, I captured this chase. At the rate of 400 frames per second, a cutthroat trout leaps the rapids. We shot over 3 hours of film to get this one image. Slowing down the action allows us to better see a fight, or the bizarre courtship of a sage grouse, or the beauty of flight. Once its 11-year run on PBS ended, Wild America continued on commercial television. Because I was closely identified with the series, as was the Bighorn Sheep, we were both incorporated into an innovative television commercial. Is Mountain Dew in serious jeopardy? This generally harmless male will defend his domain with basic animal instinct. A fierce battle rages. Yet in the end, to the victor go the spoils. Until next time, do the do. Here's a look at the raw footage we supplied to the commercial designers. And here are the amazing results, achieved through a combination of digital cloning, rotoscoping, and blue screen. Wild America transitioned to the big screen in a feature film about the life of my brothers and me, produced by my brother Mark, with Scott Bairstow playing yours truly. The feature film, even the settings are, so we filmed in many different locations, but this was
quintessential road trip, right?
Yeah, well, this exactly. It was a great road trip, but it was before my road trip to Aspen.
Oh yeah.
So it was in. I was in my late teens.
Get behind that boulder.
The movie shows the trials and tribulations, and also the joys and satisfactions of, you know, trying to get a project accomplished with siblings.
The Wild America movie kind of tells the story of you three together, doesn't it?
My brothers and I have an interesting relationship in that we've worked together for a while and on different projects, and then we go off on our own, and then we've come back and worked together. And the times of working together are probably directly correlated to how much of each other we can stand in one big dose.
That felt good. Your whole adult career has been nature cinematography, hasn't it?
Exactly.
Or did you start off with some other type of photography and then ease into that?
Well, we always did photography, in that we had a little Polaroid. In fact, I still have. They're my cherished possessions. Oh, wow. But we had a little Polaroid camera, a little Brownie box camera, and then, of course, a movie camera, which back then was 8mm film, meaning it was 8 millimeters wide, but it was film, not the 8mm video, which we have today.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of that, how we got into that is, in fact,
in the movie?
Yeah, that's what the Wild America feature film is about. The message of the film is, and especially for children, but also for adults, you know, for all those young at heart, is that if you persevere and follow your dream, it will come true.
Well, that's great.
That's the message of the film.
Especially rewarding for me is my continuing participation in the Make-A-Wish Foundation, helping dreams come true for seriously ill children.
Like that, boy, what you couldn't do to the boys on the playground, huh?
With some help from a young grizzly named Mikey, Anna Shaw had a great few days with me and our family in Aspen. For years, I had my own unfulfilled dream. I had a new idea to bring the wonders of wildlife to a worldwide internet audience. It had never been tried, but I feel there is no time like the present.
How can we make that leap into the usage of the internet? If broadcasters aren't taking on conservation issues, how can we kind of lead the way for this?
We're trying to create the model that would allow that delivery to reach everyone in the world with whatever it is that they want, whenever it is that they want it. And in my mind, that's an efficient delivery system. When you look at television, you're sitting there with a remote control, hoping that they put on something you want to watch. That's an inefficient delivery system between them and you.
My dream is becoming a reality. We launched Wild America online in late 2004.
You know, I just see the world heading in that direction, and we're trying to figure out a way to do what I've always set out to do from the first time that we started making home movies is you roll film on something and then you stick it on a projector and you show it to somebody. It's no fun if you're the only one that looks at it.
A whole international community of users are connecting with nature and finding harmony in their own lives in the process. Wild animals have always spoken to me in all their magic and mystery, with all their wisdom and wildness. My hope is to continue speaking for them and for a forever wild America.